3 straight off seasons, and the same problem is still haunting the 49ers. A championship-caliber roster, with one glaring weakness that keeps costing them when it matters most. And now, heading into the draft, the pressure is officially on. Fix it, or risk wasting another Super Bowl window. If you're a real one, smash that like button, share this with the faithful, and hit subscribe for more 49ers content. Let's get real for a second. How many times have we had this exact conversation about the San Francisco 49ers? Every off-season, the expectations are sky high. Every year, the roster looks loaded. And yet, when the lights are brightest, when the competition is elite, one issue keeps creeping back into the spotlight: the offensive line. And here's the frustrating part: it's not like fans don't see it. It's not like analysts don't point it out. Even people around the league have been saying the same thing. So the question is simple: how much longer can this team afford to ignore the trenches? Because yes, the Niners have won a lot of games. Yes, the system works. But let's not pretend like everything is perfect. When you go up against the best defensive fronts in football, when you're facing elite pass rushers in January, cracks start to show. And those cracks have cost this team dearly. Now heading into this draft, multiple needs have been identified: safety, edge rusher, offensive line. But if we are being brutally honest, one of these stands above the rest. The offensive line isn't just a need. It's a ticking time bomb. Think about it. For years, the strategy has been to wait, to find value in later rounds, to develop guys instead of investing premium picks early. And sure, you can point to regular season success and say it worked. But championships aren't won on good enough. They're won on dominance. And right now, the Niners don't dominate in the trenches the way true Super Bowl teams do. That brings us to a bigger philosophical debate. Do you draft for need? Or do you stick with the best player available approach? Because on paper, going BPA sounds perfect. Stack talent. Build depth. Never reach. But in reality, if you keep passing on critical needs year after year, eventually, it catches up to you. And it feels like that's exactly where the 49ers are right now. Now let's shift to another major concern: defensive pressure. You've got Nick Bosa, one of the most dominant pass rushers in the league. That's your anchor. That's your superstar. But what happens on the other side? That's where things get shaky. There's talent, sure. There's effort. But is there a consistent, game-wrecking presence opposite Bosa? That's the real question. Because elite defenses don't rely on just one guy. They overwhelm you in waves. And right now, San Francisco needs another wave. So let me ask you this. If you're the GM, what's your priority? Protect the quarterback or attack the opponent's quarterback? Because both are areas where this team still isn't elite enough. Now let's talk about the secondary, specifically the safety position. This is one of the more underrated issues on the roster. The current group: solid, physical, reliable near the line of scrimmage. But what's missing is that true center field playmaker. That ball hawk. That guy who can read the quarterback, range sideline to sideline, and flip momentum with a single interception. And in today's NFL, that type of player isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. There were opportunities in free agency to address this. Impact players who signed relatively affordable deals. And yet, the Niners stayed quiet. That tells you something. Either they trust what they have, or they're planning to attack this position in the draft. And speaking of the draft, this class actually presents some intriguing options. There are safeties with range, instincts, and athleticism who could step in and immediately elevate this defense. Guys who bring speed, versatility, and most importantly, playmaking ability. Because let's not forget, turnovers change everything. Now shifting back to the offensive line, because we can't talk about this enough, the situation gets even more concerning when you look ahead. What's the long-term plan? You've got Trent Williams, one of the greatest to ever do it. But let's be real, he's not going to play forever. And the scary part, there hasn't been a clear successor developed behind him. That's not just a short-term issue. That's a long-term failure in planning. This is how teams get stuck. This is how windows close faster than expected. Because when your cornerstone pieces start aging out, and you don't have replacements ready, you're forced into desperate decisions. And desperation rarely leads to championships. Now, to be fair, the Niners did add some depth this offseason. Rotational guys. Versatile pieces. Players who can step in if needed. But depth and dominance are two very different things. And right now, this team needs dominance. Not just bodies. Not just backups. Difference makers. Let's talk draft strategy again for a moment. There are offensive tackles in this class with starting experience, elite athletic profiles, and high ceilings. Some of them could be available early. Some might slip into the middle rounds. But here's the key question. Will the 49ers finally invest early capital into protecting their future? Or will they stick to their old habits and hope it works out again? Because at some point, hope isn't a strategy. Now let's bring in an interesting name that's been gaining serious traction, Trent Stokes. This is where things get exciting. Stokes is one of those players who might not go in round one, but could end up being one of the biggest steals of the draft. A hybrid defensive back with the versatility to play nickel corner and transition into a true free safety role. And what stands out immediately? The athleticism. We are talking about elite testing numbers. Speed that jumps off the screen. Explosion. Fluidity. The kind of physical tools you simply can't teach. But it's not just about traits. The production is there too. Strong coverage numbers. Playmaking ability. A nose for the football. This is a player who doesn't just react, he anticipates. And that's what separates good defenders from great ones. Imagine adding that type of range and instinct to this defense. A unit that was already one of the youngest in the league last season. A unit that's still growing, still evolving. Now you inject a high-upside playmaker into that mix. That's how defenses transform. But here's the catch. Draft value. Is he a second-round pick? Maybe. Is the better value in the third? Possibly. But the Niners don't currently have a third-round selection. So now you're looking at potential trades. Do you move back to accumulate picks? Do you take a calculated risk to land a player you believe in? These are the decisions that define front offices. And this brings us to the heart of everything. Question of the day. What should the 49ers prioritize in this draft? Offensive line, pass rush, or secondary? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Because there's no easy answer. Every option has logic behind it. Every path has risk. But one thing is certain, the margin for error is getting smaller. This team is too talented. The window is too valuable. And the expectations are too high to keep missing on key decisions. At some point, it's about execution. It's about identifying the right players, making the right moves, and finally addressing the issues that have been holding this team back. Because if the 49ers get this draft right, we could be looking at a completely different story next season. A stronger offensive line. A more dangerous pass rush. A secondary that creates turnovers instead of just preventing big plays. That's the difference between being a contender and being a champion. So buckle up, because this draft isn't just important, it's defining. And the entire faithful will be watching every single move.